Hey everyone, I'm Xonani. Welcome back to my new video. This video is a step-by-step tutorial painting this. I will show you a technique to create depth in your watercolor paintings. There are probably existing a few of these techniques. Today I will show you my favorite watercolor technique for this and which I'm using all the time. I tried to create a motif which is not too detailed and complicated, but it's quite detailed but not too complicated, I hope, because of the details and because I wanted that you can easily follow me along. I created a download of my line drawing from this motif. You can print it out on a watercolor paper. Perhaps then it's easier for you to learn this technique. You can also sketch something similar on your watercolor paper, or you can just grab a cup of tea, relax on your couch and enjoy watching my painting process. You can find the motif download on my Patreon page. It's free for all. I linked it in my video description. I sketched a few thumbnails to find the perfect motif for this video. Then I grabbed my watercolor sketchbook from Etcher to sketch it on watercolor paper. This is the first thing you need. Pick a piece of watercolor paper with the motif printed on or not, or your watercolor sketchbook. I sketched the midground in a different color, so it's easier for you to understand my drawing. Then it's time to pick colors. Today I picked very vibrant colors. We need any warm yellow. I picked gamboge. Then an opera pink, but you can use any light pink. Out of these two colors we can mix a very nice orange. Then a darker pink or a cool red or a magenta. I use quinacridone permanent magenta for this. And then we need a shadow color, our darkest color. I used a violet blue. In my case, it's the Mijello blue. These are the Mijello Mission Gold paints, by the way, which I am using here. You can use any violet dark blue, which you have at home. Also an indigo. This would be also perfect, or a Payne's gray or a neutral tint. Whatever dark, bluish or violety color you have at home. Then it's time for the first layer. On this sketch are a few blobby cuties overgrown with mushrooms in kind of an oval frame. The cuties should be the lightest part in our painting, so we try to paint a gradient from the yellow to the darkest magenta. Spare the frame out. At first we will paint it pink later. First, use a brush which is not too thin for the first layer, then it's easier to get this nice smooth gradient. I'm using a thicker round watercolor brush for this. I'm starting with the yellow on the creatures, then I'm mixing in more and more pink. I mix the colors to an orange directly on the paper. Let the colors flow into each other, then use the magenta on the top and let it flow into the pink. And this is it for the first layer. You can use the pink to blob shadows in the yellow on the creatures, but you don't have to. That's what I did here. This has to dry now. And I mean, it has to be completely dry before you start with the next layer. This is important to not get muddy colors on the second layer. And we want to paint crisp lines on this later on. When it dried a bit, we can color in the frame. I only used pink for this. Now after the background, I'm using a smaller round watercolor brush for the rest of the painting. Perhaps you want to know which I used for the background a 12 and for everything else an 8. You can also use a thinner one if you like. Mine have very nice tips and you can paint very small things with it, with the fine ends of the brushes. Use whatever you have at home. So I'm back after a while. It dried completely and I realized I have to balance the frame a bit more. But these new mushrooms I'm drawing here, I'm sketching here on this frame are already on your template. Then we are starting with the second layer. We will do this in negative painting technique. That means everything which is in the foreground stays in the light first layer color, and everything which is more in the back we will paint a bit darker. I will use the magenta here, and on the top we will mix my shadow color in a bit. Don't use too much pigments from the shadow color. We will still paint a third layer after this one on top. And you can see I'm sparing out all the mushrooms in the front. I mean everything I sketched red before. And then everything I sketched in blue is more in the back. I will paint completely over it in a soft wash. This means we will paint completely over the cutie in the back, which is in the middle. I used a bit of yellow on top of this creature, mixed with a bit of pink, so it still seems that the light source in this painting comes from the creatures. This is the brightest area of this painting, except for the mushrooms. Then I'm painting a few shadows on my creatures. You don't have to do this. I wanted to have a bit more shadows also in the front. And then we also can paint the mushrooms which are more in the back on the frame with a shadow color. And we can paint also a few shadows under the pink mushroom heads on the frames. So it creates also more depth in these small areas. Then it has to dry again completely. Oh, and what I'm doing here is to glaze the mushroom heads with the yellow, so they glow a bit more. You can also do this if you like. Make sure your background around the mushrooms is kind of dry for this, that the yellow color doesn't flow into the background color. This is also kind of a bonus step. Do it how you like it best. Sorry, I try to do this tutorial best as possible, but I'm also so me. I hope this is not confusing for you. Okay, we are back after a while. It dried completely. I'm mixing now the shadow color with the magenta, so we have a dark purplish bluish color. I'm using it quite pigmented and thick for this last layer. And we are doing the same again, bringing the midground out and painting all the background dark. Again, spare out the creature and also the midground creature here now. and the mushrooms and paint around them to bring them out in a negative technique. What I'm doing on the top here is painting a few mushroom shapes, which is also creating more distance. So our brain thinks there must be a lot more mushroom creatures in the back of this scenery. Yeah. But you don't have to paint this. You can also fill out the rest of the oval completely with your shadow color. This is what I also often do. You can play around with this in your paintings, whatever you prefer. As you can see, the more we fill out the background with this dark color, we can see this illusion of depth in the painting. As I said before, this is one way, creating distance, and my favorite way to paint it. You can also create distance in painting the midground and the background lighter and brighter as the foreground, like misty hills and landscapes. So this is it. Look how crazy detailed it looks now, and you can feel the depth. This is how I'm painting this all time. Now I'm letting it dry again and come back with colored pencils later. I also will fill the left page with a mushroom creature because the page is so empty. I hope this tutorial was helpful for you to understand negative painting, depth and layering, and I hope my motive was not too complicated for a tutorial, but that's why I made this download page for you. This will help. Or you can download it to experiment and have fun with it, however you like. This is the most important thing, having fun with our watercolors, right? Perhaps you are inspired now to paint or relaxed from watching this video. Thank you for being here with me today. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and please tell me if you like videos like this, tutorials like this. I would love to know. Also subscribe if you haven't already and click the little bell. Thank you so much for your support. And a big warm thank you to my wonderful Patreons. You are amazing. Then have an awesome week, my friends. See you next time. Yours, Xunani.